Anyway, I'm supposed to talk about craving. So I was taking my breakfast this morning. I'm glad we managed to get up because we were sleeping on the stage this last night, four of us. And I told my friends, you better get up. If you don't get up, the devotees will start coming. And they say, how come got 4 Brahmins? So we got up. Sleeping is a craving. It's nice to sleep. And like I said, I was taking my breakfast this morning with some friends, and then came the MC just now, and I asked her, hey, is craving a problem for you? She said, yeah. Come this. I said, do you have problems with craving? She said, yeah. What do you crave? Sleep, food, nice things, and things that I want to do, but I cannot do, and go some more, and on and on and on and on and on, etc., etc., etc. Now the Buddha says that the cause of craving is, the cause of suffering is craving. And it is our main concern here because it is the cause of why we are happy with life. And I cannot suggest the best way for you to be happy because I am also like you trying to be happy. But perhaps I can suggest a warning to all of us regarding this word craving. Because very often it is found in each and every one of us, but we do not realize it. And we work and we live very unconsciously, like a machine. And the battery behind our life is actually craving. And we go on and on like that. Let me give some examples. Now what did the Buddha say about craving? He says there are 3 kinds of craving. Craving, the Pali term for it is tanha. It says this: kamma tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. Kama tanha means craving for sensual pleasures. Bhava tanha means craving for becoming. Vibhava tanha means craving for non-becoming. Now let's take a look at it one by one. Today is supposed to be the thread of craving, it seems. So kamma tanha, sensual pleasures. Now do we have craving for sensual pleasures? We have eyes. The eyes likes to see. We have ears. The ears likes to hear. The nose likes to smell. The tongue likes to taste. The skin likes to feel. But before you can see, or you can hear, or you can taste, or you can feel, or you can smell, there must be an object first, isn't it? Then there will be an object. Form. So when there is an object, there is contact. Bang, your eyes see something beautiful. So when you see something beautiful, something nice, you develop what? What do you develop? Feeling first. Feelings must come first. Then there are 3 kinds of feelings. What kind of feelings are they? Either it is nice, not nice, or neither nice or not nice. So it doesn't affect you, neutral. But when I say you see nice things, things that you wish to see, what kind of feeling arises in us? Pleasant, isn't it? So the feeling is very pleasant. Do you think that is where it stops? No, you want it to be more pleasant. So what happens? It becomes a desire. Then after desire, it becomes a passion. Then you crave for more. I want more, I want more. You never say enough. I am very sure. I never think I say enough always. Always I see something not enough. So it becomes passion. And some people can become mad because of passion. That is when craving has grown until, I say, we live unconsciously. Now why must we be conscious about craving? I think we'll come to that afterwards. That is only eyes. What about ears? What about nose? What about feelings, touch? And that's why if you look around you, the advertising business, people who advertise for businessmen, for products, the advertising business is very successful nowadays. What do you think is the basis of their success? Simple. They study what people crave for. People like to see nice things. So, they must create a certain concept in advertising so that you see things nicer than what it's supposed to be. Isn't it? They know, I think they also learn Buddhism. Craving for sensual pleasures. People like to see lovely things. So when they sell something, they make it lovelier still to make sure you buy. They sell things like weed killer, for example. Do you think they only show you a bottle of weed killer? No. They must make a lady hold the weed killer. There must be a girl to hold the weed killer. And very often, the weed killer does not only eat the grass, but also eat her clothes. So, they know how to exploit these things. And you go and look at other things. They use colors, they use nice music, television, they use nice action. Maybe someday, when technology is better, if they advertise for Maggi Mee or maybe perfume, I think you can smell from the television set also. Maybe, someday, I don't know. But they'll think of something, I think. So, this is the kind of world we are all living in. Every single thing that we come across in this worldly life, this materially inclined life, is meant to stir up your sensual senses, your senses. And if we are not careful, we will be trapped. And we go on living, looking and looking and looking for happiness outside. Okay. Looking for happiness outside. So when you look for happiness outside, I will tell you that you will never say enough. Because it is just not enough, When a man has 10 cents, or when a man has no money, when he gets 10 cents, it's a lot. When he has 10 cents become nothing. He wants to become a $1 heir. And when he is a $1 heir, $1 is nothing. You think he'll think of 10 cents? No, now higher standard. You possess more, you crave for more also. You must be a $10 heir. When you're a $10 heir, you think you want to be a $1 heir. No, you must be a 100 heir. Then you want to be a 1,000 heir. When you have 1,000 heir, you don't want to be a 100 heir, you must go up. Simple mathematics, simple human attitude. So you must be a millionaire. And then when you're a millionaire, you want to be a billionaire. And it goes on until trillionaire. And in the end, you don't even enjoy the fresh air around you. Is it like that? Huh? It's very often like that. Everybody is caught in this. And what is the source? Craving. What is the source? Non-contentment. And what is the source? Being unable to view things from a higher level of consciousness, that there are other truths to life than just chasing and chasing. Because if you chase, you'll just be running around circles. Yeah, you chase somebody in the circle, will you ever be in front? The moment you overtake that person, you have to chase them all over again, isn't it? So the moment you chase for $1, boom! He's further in front now. Now you're right behind him. When you're right behind, you chase. And then you overtake him. Then you have to chase him so far. And you keep running and running and running. Nothing, no achievements. Essential pleasures is like that. You know, somebody told me at the cafeteria just now. He said, what do you crave? I think sleeping, I was telling this a group of people about sleeping. I asked them, do you think you have slept enough? Do you think you should sleep some more, extra than what you have slept? Okay, what? He says. Then we did a little bit of mathematics. When you were a baby, when we were babies, how many hours do you think we sleep? I can't remember when I was a baby. My mother asked my mother when I go back. 18 hours got some babies. Terrible. What are they good for? 18 hours of sleep, And then, as you grow up, your sleep becomes less. About maybe when you are a youth, maybe like all of us young people, most of us, say we sleep for 7 hours, got enough. Not enough, Siwin. My goodness. 8 hours? Okay, when you grow older, do old people need more sleep? Today? No, I don't think so. Say they take less sleep. I never observed how long my grandfather sleeps. I have a grandfather, 86 years old. I don't think he sleeps a lot. Okay, never mind. Let's take a simple figure. In life, you sleep an average of 8 hours a day. Don't forget, 18 hours when you were a kid, 6 hours when you were old, so take an average. How many hours? 8 hours. Enough. Enough for you. Satisfied? 8 hours a day out of 24 hours is 1/3 of the day, or not? The average age of this hall is about how old? 30? 30 years old? Average, can or not? Can, 1/3, my dear friends, we have slept for 10 years, Still not enough. If you live for 60 years, you will sleep for 20 years of your life. 20 years you sleep doing nothing, Please enough. 8 hours enough. So don't crave for more. It's enough. If you sleep some more, life will slip by, and by the time you wake up, it's too late. You know what they'll say? I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. And I wish I haven't slept so much. 20 years is a long, long time. Ask the parents, to raise a child under 20 years is no joke, And that's how long we have slept. If we live up to 60 years old. If we live up to 80, I don't know. 90 years old, 30 years, don't play a fool. So far we have slept for 10 years. Okay lah. So if you gather your sleep, we are like Sleeping Beauty, actually. Only thing we break it up lah, So enough, whoever asked me the question, craving, don't crave for some more sleep. Food, next craving, you say, food. You don't check your craving again. You see, during the Buddha's time, there was this king, his name was Pasenadi. He's fat, he's clumsy, sluggish, very lazy. Why? Because he eat too much. He'd been to the Indian shop to eat the banana rice, banana leaf. You know how they serve? They bring one pail of rice, isn't it? And they take they put one big mountain in front of you. King Pasenadi can eat one pail, because it's very big size. And when he eat too much, actually some people say eat until it becomes stupid. You eat until your face. Hey, don't disturb me lah. Now I can't do anything, So he became very idle. He wasted away. Now why I say you shouldn't crave too much of sleep and too much of time wasting. You idle your life away, it's bad. And when you idle it away, you waste it. And it's because of craving, Actually, if you look at it properly, it's craving. So he likes to sleep, and he went to the Buddha. He looked at him, and this Buddha gave him an advice. So he gave him a verse to lessen his desire for food. Then the king said, I cannot memorize this. I'm too old to memorize it. He was not really that old anyway, middle age maybe. So what happened was, Buddha called his son, or another young man. He said, you memorize it on behalf of him. And he says, the next time when the king is going to take his last spoonful, before the last spoonful, you utter this verse. Then you think, Buddha say cut down food. So that last spoonful, whenever he wants to take the last spoonful, this young man will get up and utter the verse. Then he remembered, okay, after one spoonful only, so he put it aside. Enough for today. So every time he wants to take the last spoonful, the young man do the same thing. So 1 little spoonful minus, 1 little spoonful minus, and finally his diet became normal. He doesn't eat like a monster anymore. He eats okay one normal, sufficient plate. And the beautiful thing that happened was, he became slim. He became healthy. No breathing problems. When he was fat, have you seen how very fat people breathe? Ooh, you pity them, And the poor little heart has to pump so hard to send blood all over the body like an elephant. How not to get tired? How not to get hypertension? How not to have health problems? And because he ate less and less and less, he was actually lessening his craving, isn't it? So he went to the Buddha one day. He said, you know what I'm doing nowadays? I have started getting involved in sports again. Went for hunting. Very active. I'm very happy, he says. All he did was, he didn't know that actually was cutting down his craving for food, isn't it? And here, ladies and gentlemen, we modern people pay thousands of dollars, total image. I'm not against it, please. It's okay for some people. Some people, they want to look dashing. They pay thousands of dollars for slimming program, and they tie themselves to some machines that will shake, 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 shake. And all kinds of techniques they will sort of recommend you, and then you pay and pay. When you pay money, you must get your money's worth, isn't it? You stand in front of a mirror, you see your stomach still bulging out. Cannot be! I must be slimmer. It's because you pay that you start lessening your craving. But actually, it's just a matter of disciplining yourself sometimes, isn't it? Lessen your craving for food or for those fattening things, enough lah. Sometimes it's that simple, but we don't see it. We have to pay money, then we can see craving. So actually you you do not see craving, you just look for a higher ideal. Look at the medicine, the pills, the new diet they give you, very nice brochures. So your eyes get attracted to that. You tend to forget your craving. But let me remind you, just for a little while, After that, after the training program is over, after some purification program or after some program, you look at the way they eat again. They will make up for what they miss. In the end, back to square one. Problem? Craving again. Okay? New Year is coming. Be careful. If you have a craving for sweet things, tell yourself that you must be conscious, or else unconsciously you are committing suicide. You die of diabetes. And you eat a lot of sweet cakes. Don't start the habit of eating sweet things. Yeah? If you have a craving for, I don't know, some people, whenever New Year comes around, they start playing mahjong, they start playing cards, they start gambling. He says it's a once a year affair. And I actually have a group of friends who actually got stuck to it since last New Year. Chinese New Year is a very good time to start a lot of habits. I think you agree with me, isn't it? A lot of habits. 1 year once, VSOP on the house. That's the beginning of craving. Like I say, when the thing comes to your tongue, nice taste. Nowadays, when you talk about food, people not only throw food into their stomachs, When they throw food into their stomach, look at the kind of food they throw into their stomach. When people throw food into their stomach, they are not satisfied. They even throw food into their brains. They must drink alcohol so that my brain also gets some food. Hi, nice. And then they must throw some smoke into their lungs. And when smoke not enough kick, they must throw more kick, more smoke. And more smoke doesn't work, polluted. So more power, drugs, beautiful. And all this, actually, this world problem starts from craving. These kind of problems, not control. I was talking about food just now, about diabetes. It's true, you must control. Don't get involved into like what the King Pasenadi did. Another reason why we should control, we should make an effort. At first, when I came to hear of the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha said that life is suffering, filled with suffering. And the second one, he was saying, what is the cause of suffering? And he only used the word craving. And I said, how can it be so simple? Craving. Now you expect something philosophical. Actually, it's so simple. Craving is that, hey, think about it, it is true, no? Craving also is dangerous in the sense that it can give you defilements. It can lead you to other defilements, other problems. For example, there was this man, this king. You talk about stories, you talk about kings. He was going around town in a procession, going around the village. And suddenly there was this beautiful girl standing at the window. So the king saw upstairs. So the king saw the girl. Oh, beautiful girl. King somewhere can keep quiet. Cannot keep quiet. Eye contact already. After contact, what happens? Feeling. Feeling of what? Pleasant. After feeling, imagination comes in, and you develop desire. After desire comes in, you develop passion. After passion comes in, you develop a lot of mistakes. What happened? Then he went back to the palace. He asked his minister, come here. You saw the girl at the window just now, no? The minister, which girl? That one. But I don't think he said very solid one. Very pretty one at the window.
at this corner of the road when we were going to turn, there was somebody up there at the window. Did you see her? Oh, that one. Yeah, I saw her. Yeah, why? My Lord, why? Is she married? And the minister said, yes, she has a husband. I say, man, miss. Never mind, that's not where craving stops. Craving never stops. Ask her husband to come to the palace tomorrow. So the husband came to the palace. The king looked at his face, says, I'm offering you a job, young man. From today onwards, you shall be my gardener. But when he looked at his face, he was actually seeing his wife. Then he became the king's gardener. Then he says, my goodness, the king is making me his royal gardener. Something must be wrong somewhere. Then he thought of his beautiful wife. He said, maybe my wife, I think. And every day the king gave this gardener problem. For what reason? To make him do a mistake so that he can hang that fellow. And after he hang that fellow, the girl will be a widow. You see. So give him terrible task to do. Difficult task. What to do? For the love of his wife? No forcing. You like it, you do. You don't like it, also do. No forcing. So he did it. That the king could not find any mistakes with him, and he became so, every day he imagined that, when can I get rid of this fellow? He developed a lot of hatred. You see, because of craving, what is the next problem coming in now? Hatred. This fellow is too much, man. He's too perfect. I can't get anything wrong. I can't get him to do anything wrong. How can I get rid of him? Then he gave an impossible task for him to do. So our friend also no choice. One other one also had to do. He somehow, of course, then the story went on with some help out of his own kindness. He received some help. And he managed to do something which was quite impossible. And the king got so frustrated. He wanted to kill him. You know, he was supposed to get something before a certain time. And the time was almost up. The king said, somebody said, there he's coming, he's on his way, he's right outside our district gate there. He said, lock the palace gates, don't let him come in, make sure the flower they asked him to get doesn't get to me on time. Then I got reasons to kill him. You see, the king has developed hatred just because of this little craving for this girl, until he was prepared to plan to kill. Jealousy has come upon him, envy has come upon him, and all the other defilements has followed after craving. And of course, this man came into the gate, couldn't do anything. Then he started screaming, every villager, please listen, he says. I've done this king's favor, but now he's trying to stop me from fulfilling it. Please be my witness. For the king has no justice if he kills me. Do you think the king can sleep in peace with this kind of lust in his brains, in his mind? Do you think he can sleep in peace? Cannot. And it was true that on that night he had a terrible dream. In his dream he heard 4 sounds, 4 syllables. And then the sounds also. Next morning he got up, he was frightened. So you know what he did? He consulted some Brahmins. See, I heard these 4 sounds in my dreams. What are they? Please tell me. You know what the Brahmin said? Oh, that means Brahmi also goreng lah, you know. That means you are going to die. Who won't die in the first place? You're going to die. Bad omen, he says. My life, I can't die. I don't want to die, I'm a king. Yes. Brahmin, please, I beg you, teach me how to get rid of this bad omen. You know what the Brahmin You know what the Brahmin recommended? Offer a sacrifice, besar-besaran, big sacrifice. 100 sheep, 100 ox, 100 chickens, and all 100 boys and 100 girls also. But he was craving for himself so much that instead of 100, he had 500 of each, ready to be slaughtered. Slaughtered boys and girls. But the queen was very smart. You see how much defilements has developed? Just because of one craving only. Of course, later on he met the Buddha, and the Buddha told him what the dream was about. It was about 4 young people who had so much money, didn't know what to do with the money in their past life. And one of them suggested, let's give it to charity. And the other 3 said, boring lah, charity. And then the second one suggested, let's drink and be merry, let tomorrow take care of the family, And the other 3, the 3 also say, boring lah. And then the third one suggested, let's have a lot of fun in theaters, all these kind of things. And all the other, not good enough. That's not a good way to enjoy life. And of course, the fourth one is the smartest one, it seems. Smartest, inverted commas. Let's have fun with women. All the other 3. So this was their part. And then the Buddha says, the sound that you heard were the sounds of these 4 persons because of the number of hearts they have broken. They were reborn in hell, and after every cycle of time they come up and they want to actually scream out their regrets for having done these bad deeds. But the moment they utter the first plea, go down again like that. Those were the 4 syllables. Then the king said, sexual misconduct so bad. I'm trying to steal somebody's wife, And straight away he forgot the whole idea of trying to get the gardener's wife. So that was the advice the Buddha gave. So the whole thing that I'm trying to say here is, beware of your craving sometimes. Because if we are not aware of it, we don't check it, it can develop to other defilements as well. You can develop hatred when you can't get the things you like. You can develop jealousy when you see somebody having more than you. And it goes on. And it goes on and on and on, and people kill for property, people kill for other people's wife, people cheat, people rob, name it. Sensual pleasures. Okay? Now, then we come to Kama-tanha. Bhava-tanha, Kama-tanha is over, Bhava-tanha. Craving for becoming. This one I think has to do with the whole system of becoming. Being born and born again. I want to become something. A human being says, I want to become something better than a human being. And you go on and on. Now it's quite difficult to see it this way. So I have just got a little analogy, a little story to share with you all about this craving for becoming. Now basically, dissatisfaction will come in. Now let's look at this story for example. Now there was this laborer. So when I say laborer, the first thing comes to our mind is he must be quite poor, isn't it? Or very poor, isn't it? Laborer, okay. Now what is his work? His work very simple. Take one hammer, take one chisel. Go to the mountain, chisel rocks. Hopefully you'll find some pieces of precious stones. Now he's working for somebody, and that's why he's a laborer. So he was chiseling stone under the hot sun. Chisel, chisel, chisel. Do you think he's happy with life? Do you think he's happy with life? No, isn't it? Of course not. Then he went to take a rest under the tree. He says, how come? Why must I be a laborer? He asked. Why must I be a laborer? How wonderful, how happy I would be, he said, if I can be a big boss, a tycoon, a gem tycoon, rather than have to do this digging for gems. Rather than have to carry a hammer and a chisel just to earn a living. I want to be a tycoon for gems. Make it a little bit fairy tales. Then the fairy heard it, let's say. What did you say? You want to be a tycoon? Gem tycoon? Okay, no sweat. So take the magic wand and boom. Now our friend is no more a laborer. He's a gem tycoon. Big shot. You think he's happy? From a laborer you become a tycoon. You think he's happy? What do you think? He has become something else, He's very happy for the first day, so happy. But one day, if he sees the king pass by, how can, man? I'm so rich. Still I have to bow to the king. I must be king. I'm not happy enough. Isn't it? It happens to all of us. If we see something better, we want to become something better. I must be the king, he said. So who heard now? Fairy heard again. Please equate the fairy to the laws of nature. I'm using fairy to make it simple. Make it fairy. Laws of nature manifest, of course. Make it fairy. Boom, become king. First day. Now I'm king. Big laugh. Do you think the happiness will last? What do you think? Are all kings happy? One day the king will go to the villagers in his golden chariot. What will everybody do when they see the king? They will bow. Your Majesty, your Royal Highness, and all the pangkat. Then the king will feel warm. I hope you don't mind this story anyway. The king will feel warm. Then he look up, he says, how can? The sun is not respecting me. Your craving shall grow and you just want to be somebody more powerful. So he wants to become the sun. The sun is not respecting me. It doesn't bow at me, man. I want to be the sun. See, from human beings, you want to become sun. Mother Nature, sun. Don't play for. Never mind. Let's say the fairy say, okay, you'll be a sun. Taung become matahari. If you have a chance to become so powerful like the sun, is that the end of craving? Is that the end of craving to become something some more? Then the sun will burn the earth. Burn and burn and burn, and one day one little cloud comes and block the sun. How can, man, this small boy never respect me, this cloud? I want to be the cloud. Finally becomes a cloud. You think that's all? Finish the story? Then one day the cloud will shower heavy rain. And you know what the cloud saw? The cloud will see one piece of rock on the mountain, not shaken by the rain, not shaken by the wind that it produces. How can, man, this rock is stronger than I am? I want to be the rock. So he becomes the rock. Fine rock. Now our friend, rock. You know what happens after that? You think you'll be happy? Because then came along a laborer with a hammer and a chisel. And chisel at the rock and broke the rocks little by little. How can? Now I want to be a laborer. Back to square one. Isn't think that is the end of the story? The laborer will be dissatisfied again. What the laborer want to become now? Huh? Tycoon. See, this talk can last until tomorrow. And then it will go on, isn't it? This is craving for becoming. And that is why we all go in circles. I want to become, you become. When you become, not enough. I want to become some more, you become. And that is why we go from realm to realm, from life to life. So long as craving is not checked. Then the Buddhist hymn that says, from life to life, more high and free, the myriad forms evolve. From life to life, more high and free. If craving is not checked, from life to life, you'll be building a thicker prison wall around you. But with the teachings of the Buddha to guide, from life to life, more high and free. Get out from this vicious circle of craving. Sometimes I tend to think, you see, sitting at home, paralyzed like this, I get a lot of very, very friendly visits from friends. Then they recommend me, Mr. O, we would like to suggest a place. Now they take it that I'm very sad, you see. I say, what is the thing you like to suggest? Have you heard of paradise? Have you heard of heaven? So yeah. What have you heard? Do you know that we are promised of a heaven, a paradise, which is eternal, which lasts forever? And when I think of this story, I say, I think better be a Buddhist lah. Because if I go to the heavens, and if I'm not satisfied, it will be eternal, you know. At least Buddhist heaven still got ending. You can start becoming a man again. If you're not satisfied, there's a way out. If I go there, no way out. Only you don't want lah. Am I right? So my dear friends, so long as you go to heaven or any paradise on earth, so long as you do not educate yourself with the knowledge of the path to freedom, you will never find paradise eternal. You'll get frustrated with it. And the biggest frustration with eternal paradise is you can't get out. So Buddhist heavens is just nice. Maybe you suffer for a few 100,000 million billion years, but still you can see that there is a chance. Then I wait for my day. And even gods, because they have defilements still, because they are not perfect, because they are subjected to this craving thing, they are also not satisfied, even as gods. Gods got God's problems. Father got father's problem, mother got mother's problem. So God also has his own problems. See? And then we have Vibhava Tanha. Let's say God has problems. Then he says, I don't want to become God anymore. Fed up with the problem. I don't want to exist. I don't want to become God or human beings. After becoming human being, human being, lemah. I think I don't want to become human being some more. Enough is enough. What is he doing now? He doesn't want to become a human being. Buddha say that is also craving. Craving for non-becoming. Don't want. Some people commit suicide, isn't it? But if you look at it again, why do they commit suicide? They are committing suicide because they are not happy. They are not happy because they are not getting what they want. And not getting what you want means not satisfying your craving. So taking a shortcut also, the Buddha said, craving. You get caught in the vicious circle again. That's all. Right. So what is important for us to note here is this craving makes a chain. The only way to break it is not to suppress your craving or your craving coming. I should not have craving. This is true, but not enough. Remember, the only way out is not by looking outside. Not by looking outside. Outside things can only entertain your craving most of the time. For example, when you have something, you always have better things. When you have better things, there will always be even better things waiting for you. And what happens is, if you have a Proton Saga, one day the Proton Saga will be useless. Why? Because you won't be happy with it anymore. You're so used to it, I'm fed up already. Because your eyes sees a Mercedes-Benz. And then you want to be happy, isn't it? How to be happy? Okay, since I got some money, buy a Mercedes-Benz. Then you'll be happy for a little while. What is the word human being in Bahasa? They call it Manusia. Manusia came from a Pali word. Do you know that? Manusia does not explain itself, but it came from a Pali word called Manusa. And what is the meaning of Manusa? Anybody? Manusa means a being that has the ability to develop the mind. That is the meaning of Manusa. And if you want to break the chain of craving, a Manusa is the best position to break it. That's why we have to recognize our potentials. That we are beings that have the potential to develop the mind. Now, I cannot say that after listening to this chit-chat, you walk out of this hall craving free. Oh, that's impossible. I will walk out this hall with all my cravings still. But the least we can do is to remind ourselves that there is a way out. And maybe start those exercises. And for a start, for people, worldly people like us, who has a job to look after, families, wife, girlfriends, children, problems, work, for a start, give attention to the 5 precepts, at least, I would say. Because if you look at the 5 precepts very, very carefully, it actually assists you to remind yourself to get rid of the grosser cravings, isn't it? Gross cravings will be eliminated through 5 precepts. Besides that, other than eliminating, the 5 precepts also gives rise to positive virtues. You see, there was this person who came to visit me one day, and she said, Kim Leng, do you know how to do metta bhavana? Meditation on metta. I said, why? I want to develop metta. I know this girl very well, and I know she's a very kind girl. You mean you never practiced metta bhavana? I said, no. Can you give me the techniques? My goodness, techniques, how can I give techniques? I was telling some friends yesterday, I got more meditation techniques than what the Buddha recommended. I used the Buddha technique, it became something else. I fall asleep. Instead of getting insights, I usually get dreams. Anyway, so I say, okay. I said, I do not know really. And then she was walking around my house. She saw my fish tank. And my brother was throwing some fish. Wow! Gimling, you see. Nice fish lah. I got in for you, what or not? Then I asked, hey, really, are you want to goreng? No lah, joking only lah. Yeah, I ask you, if I say I want to eat the fish, would you goreng for me? No lah, what for? Poor fish. Goreng the river for what? You think easy to kill a fish, she said. She told me that, Then I called her, I say, you have never done metta bhavana? No, never. You observe the 5 precepts, right? Oh, very important, I think, it helps me a lot. 4 years ago, I knew she became a Buddhist about 4 years lah. 4 years ago, before you knew Buddhism, before 5 precepts came into your life, would you have killed the fish? Then she thought for a while. Actually, 4 years ago, I always helped my mother to kill the chickens. No problem. Now fish also cannot, And I look at her. Hey, why you say you got no metta? Because the precept has reminded her and reminded her and reminded her. Unconsciously, she has become mindful that all life is to be appreciated, isn't it? Metta has grown. And we all are like this. We observe 5 precepts, everything. So simple lah. Boring, everything come panatipata, veramani, sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Every day repeat the same thing, but you should. It is by repetition. Minds like ours need to be reminded again and again and again and again and again. It's like that. Because we make mistakes, we get carried away again and again and again also. So remind yourself, and metta grows, Metta grows. So then we won't have the problem of what we see, Malam Sri Bodhi, the sketch by UKM. What good deeds have you done? Oh, I saved a cat from a big dog. Okay lah, he says, how did you save the cat? I killed the dog. Well, with a little bit of metta, these things won't happen, isn't it? So remind yourself lah, it's through your precepts, okay. That's why you have Silena Sukatinyanti, Silena Bogasampadang, Silena Nibbutinyanti Tasma Silangi Sotaye. Which means, it's through your precepts, sukha, you attain to happiness. Silena Boga Sampadang. It's through your precepts you attain to Boga is happiness, Boga, higher births in the heavens. Silena Nibbutinyanti is through the perfection, to the purity of precepts that people attain to nirvana, to freedom, to liberation, to enlightenment. Tasma silangi sotai. So, purify your precepts, the Buddha said. Important. So maybe this is the first step. Coarse, but important enough for us to reflect. Okay? The second way out, maybe, develop habitual mindfulness. Make it a habit. Make mindfulness a habit. That before you do a certain thing, before you make a decision, Before you want to say something, when a thought comes into your mind and before you manifest it into actions or speech or whatever, make it a habit to reflect. Make it a habit when you're looking out, make it a habit to look in and see where this decision comes from. And if you see that it is from desire, no, desire. The Buddhists never say that Buddhists cannot have possessions, please. The Buddha is not against rich people. Anathapindika is his best friend. Anathapindika is richer than any one of us here. So, Buddha is not against possession. But the Buddha is against craving. You can be rich, but that doesn't mean you have to crave. You can be poor, but that doesn't mean you should be sad. See? Look at the lives of primitive people. Sometimes I think they smile more than modern people, primitive people. You know, when I was working as a teacher in Sarawak, my students comes from families who were so poor, but I saw that there was much happiness there, so much. And I really think that if should something nice happen, I don't know, maybe it is karma, should karma decides that I can walk again, I think I'll go back there. Because they are poor. You know, there was this student of mine, pupil of mine, standard 1, small girl, fever, you know. I was going around the hostels for a round. You know, they were so poor, they cannot buy even blankets. You know what she did? She took down the mosquito coil. There she's in the mosquito coil. Mosquito coil became a blanket, you know, for them. That's how poor they are. And the next day you see her running in the field, laughing away, as if nothing had happened. They never think too much, you know. I'm not saying that they are depriving themselves. I don't think they are deprived from anything at all. And I spent some time in Thailand, seeking treatment in Thailand, in the village of Thailand. You know, these people, they are so poor that even you look at their children's clothes, I think they don't even have money to buy detergent because the clothes are not really clean, in the sense they become brown. But on Upasata days, full moon, new moon especially, you see the way they offer food to the monks. I think it is really something that they have really wanted to give from the bottom of their hearts. They could give such good food to the monks, their faith for Buddhism. And sometimes I begin to wonder, if people can afford to give, can you call them poor? I think only people who cannot give are poor. There are some people who have so much, they cannot give. Not enough. I must make some more, then I can give. And then when they make some more, got more money already, not enough, make a little bit more, then I can start giving. They never get started actually. They crave for more. So I always think that a person who can give means they feel rich enough, that's why they can part. So these are the things. People, and actually it's through giving, which is another good exercise for you to understand that, for you to be able to lessen your craving. It's through your giving. Habitual mindfulness again. Now what happens if we watch, for example? Eyes contact again. Whether pleasant things or unpleasant things, we don't care. If we see pleasant things, what arises in us? The desire, isn't it? Watch the desire. Don't be like the king. Just now, watch at the girl, the rich man's, the gardener's wife. You watch at the object, only finish. Desire go. But what you should do is watch your desire. See how it it dances inside you, and you begin to understand that it goes up. What goes up must come down. And desire, if you watch it with mindfulness, with heedfulness, paying heed to the Buddha's advice, it will drop. It will drop. If it is unpleasant object, watch again. It's always because of your craving that you don't feel happy. Unpleasant, you see. I want pleasant things, so unpleasant things make me sad, makes me angry, makes me jealous, makes me envious, makes me hot. Watch the heat. Human beings, they are very special. They have what is called the warning system. Before you get jealous, before you get angry, before you get worked up with negative things, there's always a physical warning for you. Your ears will become hot first. Then your heart will beat faster. If you're very angry, you start sweating, cold sweat. And then you start scolding. So this time, when your ears become hot, watch the heat first. By watching the heat, then you know, anger is coming, anger. How come I must let anger govern my life? And you keep on searching, anger will drop. So you save a lot of problems. You don't have to scold. You don't have to hurt people's feelings. You don't have to belittle people. And you don't have to go on belittling people for many, many more occasions. And that is the advantage of being mindful. And once in a while, or maybe often, make it a habit again, to reflect on higher truths. Not just worldly truths. If you are beautiful, reflect that beauty is only skin deep. There is also beauty of virtues. There are ways of decorating a person through virtues. Good conduct decorates a person also. So you see, you remember a higher ideal. And if you are born not so beautiful, nose a little bit crooked, never mind. At least you can still breathe. Because they are higher truth. If you are born very strong, watch your craving so that you shall not crave for more strength and go on and on and on. When you are strong, remember, there are stronger things than strong. That the Buddha said, a man may conquer 1,000 men 1,000 times in the battlefield. Yet he who conquers himself is the greatest victor. So there are stronger things than physical strength. If you are rich, you got a lot of sons. Some Chinese people especially, they got a lot of sons. Wow, this one is my grandson, or this one, no. One rugby team. Very, very proud. And then when they see their granddaughters-in-law, hey, when are you going to produce some more? Got a lot of money. Money becomes more and more. Ooh. Sons have I. Wealth have I. But what did the Buddha has to say to this? He say, people who think they have sons, people who only think they have wealth and dwell in such thoughts, they are never happy. For they forget. They forget one thing, that this very body that they are having, they can't even call it theirs. The very self is not yours. If it is yours, try and stop yourself from dying. If it is yours, try and stop yourself from aging. If it is this body is yours, try and stop yourself from all the unhappiness just by making a command. It's not yours. Even you do not own yourself. The day you die, we die, we can't even pick our own bones. So the question is, where is your son? Where is your wealth when you yourself don't belong to you? It's another higher truth. And look at it in that way. So maybe if you reflect hard enough, it might effect some change, craving. And with that, I hope that you will be well, you will be happy, and from life to life, we will all be more high and free. Thank you very much.